All right, gamers, welcome back. Today, we are going to do a video on the CSGO economy. This is the first content video in this series, and there's a really good reason for that. So, every decision that you make in Counter-Strike somehow links back to the economy, right? It is the system that underpins all the decisions that an IGL makes. So, what we're going to do here is first we're going to learn the economy, which is the why we do things, and then we're going to go into different things that we do in rounds like defaults and set pieces and strats and all that different type of stuff, which is the what. So we're going to learn the framework, the basis, the backbone of CSIGLing today. It is perhaps the most important thing to master on a basic level. Because if you cannot do the economy right, then you cannot do calling right. That's just how it is. I still see a lot of pro teams and teams below that tier making economy mistakes. It's kind of ridiculous that something so important is still not fully understood by everybody trying to play the game at a top tier, but that's the way it is, and hopefully we can correct some of that today. So let's get started, guys. I'm going to do this video in two parts. First, we're going to go over the base theory of the economy and sort of explain in detail how the economy is supposed to work, or it does work. And then I'm going to get a demo review and review that demo and see how this can be applied to a live action game. All right. Let's do it, guys. Let's get into it. Okay, we've got the infamous notepad. Let's do it. The money system guides all decisions made in Counter-Strike. Every single one at some point can be linked back somehow to the money system. It is the backbone of the game. Yeah? So, every round starts with an advantage or a disadvantage to one team, right? Whether that is in the money, so you have better guns and utility than the other team, or the map. Some sides of the map are just significantly disadvantaged to the other side, or even just the momentum in the game, right? So if the other team seems to have you figured out, like they know what you're doing and your game plan is just completely in the bin, they've got the momentum, they've probably got the advantage, right? So what you then need to do is take a certain amount of risk. The strategy that you need to do is based on that advantage or disadvantage, and then you either take a lot of risk to try to get that advantage back in your favor, or you don't take much risk at all to maintain the advantage that you already have, right? To do this, you need to track the opponent's money. Track the opponent's money. And this is an art form, right? I can't tell you how many times at round 13, I've lost control or lost track of what the opponent's money is doing, right? But you need to have a decent grasp on the economy system, how it works, how it functions, which we're about to go over, and then what the other team is doing, which needs to be relayed back to you by your teammates, so you can then look at their money, go, okay, this is what they've got. Okay, this is what we need to do to counter that. In this way, the economy system will not only tell you what you should be doing in a round, but it will tell you what the other team is likely to do. While you can't rely on their competency in the economy 100%, it can give you a general gist of what they're capable of. For example, if they don't have a full buy, then they clearly can't do a standard default and util you out of every position and slowly force you back and whatnot. They can't do that because they simply don't have the tools to do that, right? So, the first and most important thing that your IGL can do, this is step one, and this is what I teach every new IGL that I work with, is call the money at the start of the round, right? Yours and the opponent's. So you go, all right, guys, full buy up, everyone buy up. The other teams on eco here just play defensive, right? That communication or that instruction tells you three things: our money, their money, and how we're going to respond to their money. That is perhaps the most important thing that I don't see a lot of younger IGLs and newer IGLs do. That's not optional. You must do that in every single round. Right. So we're going to go over some definitions now and exactly what they mean. First off, we've got a full buy. It means pretty clearly spend all your money or as much as you can to buy the best guns and full utility. To buy your best gun and full utility, right? If you're full buying and maybe one or two people can't afford it, that just means they spend all their money. This is what we call a standard round, right? This is the round that you're trying to get to at any point in the game. If you can full buy, that's you at your full strength, right? That's you at your full power, all right? So then we've got an eco. Now, what's an eco? It should be pretty simple. Oh, we're just saving, Fiend. No. It means you spend as much money as you can to give yourself the biggest chance to do damage and win the round in this round as possible, while also being able to buy next round. So write that down. Spend as much money as you can while being able to buy next round. So depending on where you are and where your finances are in the game, the way that you eco can differ from Glocks, like just full 5 Glocks, to, two people might have AKs, right? There might be 5 Deagles, armors, AKs, whatever it is. All these different scenarios can occur, but the principle is still the same in that, guys, we're not buying this round. We're just spending enough money so we can do as much damage as we can and then buy next round. That's the entire purpose of an eco, right? So we've got a force buy, and that's spend all your money, but you're not going to have a full buy, right? So you may have a couple of AKs, a few bad guns, a couple of Deagles. Not everybody's going to have full utility, but you're buying to $0. Not a full buy, but still buying to 0. Spend all your money, buy whatever you can get, right? Now, a couple of more advanced concepts now. So we've got the hero AK/AWP. And this is when one person on a team buys a big gun, generally an AK and AWP. You don't really see the hero M4. Well, everybody else ecos. And the entire point of this one gun is to control the money of the other team, right? You don't want their money snowballing out of hand. Yeah, you don't want it exploding and just getting to a ridiculous point. So you buy one gun and that one gun goes out and tries to do as much damage as possible. You might recycle it. One guy might shoot, the next guy will pick it up and he'll shoot as well. And you're just trying to find a way into the round if you can, but ultimately damage the other team's economy so they can't build economy, right? One person buys a gun while everyone else ecos to keep the opponent's money low, all right? And the final term that we're going to need, or definition that we're going to need for this video, is break the economy. Yeah. So what we're talking about when we're talking about breaking the economy is if the other team's money is low and they lose the round, then they'll be on an eco, right? So by breaking them, you force them back to an eco, which is the situation in which winning this one round will actually net you 2 or maybe 3 rounds because you're forcing them back onto bad guns, right? So when the other team's money is low and losing the round will cause them to eco the next round. Okay, so those 5 concepts are the basis in buying in Counter-Strike. The basic rules, if you will. And here's the thing about rules. Right? Here's the thing about everything that I am going to go over in Counter-Strike in general in this entire series. If you know the rules, you can break the rules. But you first have to know the rules to be able to break the rules. Right? You have to know the logic and reasoning behind this stuff So when you see the opportunity for a different scenario, you can seize it and take it, right? So you'll see pro teams doing a bunch of different economy stuff, but that's because they know the rules to break the rules. Otherwise, you're just running around randomly and you're just doing random stuff if you're breaking the rules. But this is going to be the same for everything that I go over in this series. You'll see pro teams breaking these rules. They're allowed to. If you don't know the rules yet, you're not allowed to. That's how it works. And when you finally get good enough, you'll think back to this and you'll think, oh, actually, yeah, I could do this and it could work even better. That's how it works. All right, let's move on. So first, we're going to go over the basics of the loss bonus here. Most people who play Counter-Strike already knows how this works, but we'll get the money. We'll articulate it quickly here. So if you have loss bonus, it appears on the scoreboard, and I'll show you in the demo where it appears on the scoreboard. But if you have 0 loss bonus, you get 1,400 if you lose. If you have 1, you get 1,900. And you gain 500 every time, all the way up to 3,400. So loss bonus 3, 2,900. Loss bonus 4 is 3,400, right? And what that means is every time that you win a round, your loss bonus goes down 1, and every time you lose, it goes up 1. So the first time you lose, you get 1,400. The second time you lose, you get 1,900. The third time you lose, etc., etc. Now, if you win one, the loss bonus goes back down by 1. So if you're on loss bonus 4 and you win one, the next time you lose, you get 2,900. That's how it works. The only exception to this rule is you start at loss bonus 1 after losing the pistol, right? That means if you lose the pistol, you won't get 1,400, but you'll get 1,900. And that's just a little pistol round gimmick to make losing the pistol round not so punishing, right? This also makes the second round of Counter-Strike after you've won the pistol perhaps the most important round in Counter-Strike. Because if you lose that round, you've won the pistol, you've bought guns. If you then lose that round, you'll go back down to 1,400 and you'll have to 1,400 force buy, and that'll make you feel really bad. So the round that you need to drill into your team, guys, focus up in this round. We have to focus here. We can't lose this one, is the second round after winning pistol. That is perhaps the most singular, most impactful round in Counter-Strike if you lose it. So now let's move on. Let's move on to some more numbers stuff. Yeah. How much money do you need to buy as a T and a CT, right? So let's start with Ts, right? The lowest amount you can buy with is about 4K. You might be able to get away with a little bit less, but buying when your team as a whole has like 4K each, that's about the lowest you want to go. Yeah. Whereas a full buy with AKs is about 4.8K. Yeah, and that's when everyone has 5 AKs and full utility, and that's a pretty standard round. Obviously, if you want an AWP, it is worth more. And we'll talk about the AWP's economy in a little bit. For CTs, the lowest amount you can, or CTs, the lowest amount you can buy with is about 4.2-ish K. Like, that is not going to be a good buy for the CTs. The economy is significantly more punishing for the CTs than it is the Ts. The guns are worth more. You have to buy kits, and the Molotov/incendiary is also worth more. You can't really buy with the same amount, or you can't buy with the same amount of money as a CT as you can as a T, right? 4.2K, you probably even want a little bit more than that. But if you just really have to push it, 4.2K, you can sort of get a convincing buyout. That's the minimum. So whereas a full buy is about 5.9K. And you can see how that is much higher than the T's at 4.8K. Now, all right, we're getting there, boys. We're following along so far. I hope so. Now, the AWP is slightly different to this, because if you want to get an AWP out, you need to manage your economy. So you'll see Ts and even CTs, or definitely CTs, but sometimes Ts, not full buying while their team full buys, because they're saving for an AWP in future rounds. They don't want to wait to round 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to get out an AWP. They want to get it out in round 3 or round 4. So you'll see, while in maybe the second round after you've won the pistol, while his teammates are buying up, they're full buying, he might still have $1,000 in the bank because he wants that money to buy the AWP sooner. It is solely on the responsibility of the AWPer to manage his money so he can get an AWP out when it's agreed that he should have an AWP out. So if the team wants an AWP in round 4, it's his responsibility to manage his money and understand when he needs to buy and when he doesn't, so he can get the AWP out in time. Now, let's go over some basic rules of how the economy runs, right? Again, all rules are made to be broken, but you've got to know them first. Basic rules. So, if you win, full buy. Or as close to as possible. Every single time, if you win the round, you should full buy whenever you can. There is actually one exception to this rule that I've only ever seen occur once in a pro game, after which you win and you eco afterwards. It is very, very rare, but I don't think that we should worry about that. Just as a 99.9% rule, if you win, then you full buy. That's just how it works. Keep that in mind. Don't mess that one up. Yeah. Now, if you lose, you want to either full buy or spend as much money as you can to buy in the preceding round, right? Or eco. That is based on a few different things, which we are about to go over now. So either full buy or, eco. Now that I'm saying that seems pretty obvious, as there's not many other options. There's force buy as well. Or force buy. If you lose, you have to make an economy decision. Now, so when we're losing these rounds, when do you force buy? When do you force buy? This is quite a hard question. And it comes down to a lot of factors. It's also going to come down to personal preference, right? Different teams force buy at different times depending on where their strength is. If your strength as a team is to, you're really structured, right? Or you need double AWPs, or you have certain strats that you want to run that require a full buy, then you're not going to force so much. But if you're a really scrimmy team, if you like to take a lot of 1v1 aim duels, you like to walk out places randomly, you like to focus on your mechanical ability more than the strategical ability of the team, then you're going to force buy more often, right? But let's look at the factors that go into deciding whether you force buy or not. Yeah. So when do we force buy? If you can't get a decent buyout in the next round, so ecoing won't do anything, then you force buy. If you won't be able to get a decent buyout in the next round. This often happens when people lose a round, and you see the pattern of, we lost a round, okay, we've got to force, and then the next round's going to be an eco if we lose, and then we'll buy, right? There's no situation in which you want to be double ecoing. So if you're going to double eco, you force. That's how it works. Now, I'll quickly get into that because I still see a few people making this mistake. The economy changed a couple of years ago, so you couldn't get full broken as easily anymore. Before that, we used to see a lot of double ecos, but now, by double ecoing, you effectively hand control of the economy over to the other team. They're going to build a bank, and it's going to be much harder for you to get through that bank to force them down onto lower guns if you win. So now what you do, and what you see pretty much all pro teams doing, is if they have to double eco, then one of those ecos is going to be a pretty decent force, and they're going to use that force buy to go out and do damage to the economy and maybe win. We actually see a lot of force buy wins, but to basically make the other team's economy as low as possible, right? So if you can't get a decent buyout in the next round, it's time to force, right? The second reason, as I've just sort of gone over, is if the other team's economy is low And let's say they're going to get a full buy, right? But they're all going to be sitting on $0 after they full buy. Then you might as well force up, because if you win that round, they're going to be on a bad buy and it could be worth 2 or 3 for you. So you force back up with the intention of breaking their economy. It's like, yeah, we might not have better guns than them in this round, but if we win, the reward is massive. It's that risk-reward equation which you need to be making in your head as the IGL. So if the other team's money is low, and winning the round will force them onto an eco/break their economy, right? There's sort of one more reason that you force buy, and it sort of comes towards the end of the half when you desperately need rounds, right? Let's say you're down 11-2, yeah? And you can either eco 1, because there's 2 rounds left in this half, you can either eco 1 and get a decent buyout in the last round, or you can have 2 sort of decent buys in the last 2 rounds. In that scenario, I would force buy both rounds because I want the chance at getting to 11-4. I don't want to go 12-2 and then have the final round rest on that one last round, and then you're down 13-2 and you're like, oh man, that's really rough. Obviously, anyone would much rather be on 11-4, and you're losing so much already. There's no guarantee that you're going to win that last round. You desperately need rounds, so you force buy those last 2. If you desperately need rounds, then you might force buy because 2 chances is better than 1. All right. Now, I hope you've sat through all that. I hope you've followed all that, because it is super important to understand these things. Now, I know this was all pretty dry and theoretical. But once we actually get into the demo and have a look at these situations, hopefully we can apply this in a much better way and talk about these situations that are hopefully helps you understand and visualize this stuff much more. All right. There's one more thing that I want to go over, and this is not a start round thing. This is an end round thing. When do you hunt and when do you save? This generally happens when you are winning rounds, but also happens if you're losing rounds a lot, right? After a round has been decided, most times someone needs to make a decision. Let's say they've taken the B bomb site and you're sitting on A and you are the A anchor, and do I go and try and do damage to the other team's economy and get the guns out of their hands, or do I save, right? And this is a massive one I see people getting wrong all the time. Here is the general rule. If you have loss bonus in your favor, then hunt. If you're not, then save and build economy. Build money. Right? Why is this the case? And this is super, super important. Right? Why is this the case? Because the relative value of money is greater for the team that doesn't have loss bonus. Okay, money is worth more to them because they can't get it easily, right? So if they were to lose 2 or 3 guns, that puts them closer to their economy being broken, right? And that means that sets you up for comebacks, right? Because if you've been losing a lot of rounds, so you've got loss bonus and you can keep the other team's economy low, you might be down 6-0, but they have no money in the bank. Yeah. So if you go out and try and do damage and you get their money low and you break them, you could be straight back in it. The difference between a 6-0 with money in the bank and 6-0 with no money in the bank is massive, right? It's absolutely massive. So you have to get this decision right. If you have loss bonus, then go and hunt. If you don't have loss bonus, then don't go and hunt. Build economy so you get further away from that getting broken that we're talking about. Now, is this a steady, fast rule? No. There are other factors that you have to take into account when making this decision, and you have to balance these factors. As an IGL, you have to balance these factors. Objectively, there are some rounds that just should be a save or very clearly should be a hunt, right? But there are a bunch of rounds that are much more cloudy. And let's talk about those other factors that make that decision. Other factors. Number one, how many rounds are left in the half? The rule that we've just said basically goes out of the window if there's 2 rounds left in the half. Or if you can full buy for the rest of the half, regardless of if you win or lose, then you go and hunt, because there's absolutely no downside other than maybe giving the other team guns when you don't want to be. But there's almost no downside to hunting if you can full buy every round. So the closer to the end of the game that it gets, the less relevant the general rule is, right? The second is, what is the other team saving? If the other team is saving an AWP, then it might be worth it. And their AWP is really good. Like if he's dominating you, it might be worth it to go out there, throw bodies at him to try to get this AWP out of his hands so he can't have one for another 2 or 3 rounds. That might seriously relieve the pressure on you, and that risk reward of losing your own guns and hampering your own economy might be worth it if you can get the AWP out of his hands. That is something that you need to consider, right? And the final one is, how feasible is it to hunt? Like some maps, their position simply will not allow you to hunt in any way other than suiciding, right? If they're sitting on a line with an AWP that you know that you just can't get across because you might not have any flashes or you might not have any smokes to get them out of position, if it is just not feasible for you to go and hunt them, then you can't, and you just don't. There is no point in headbutting them and just throwing your guns away in any scenario, right? Regardless of what the general rule says, if you can't do it, then you don't do it. All right. I'm glad we got through all that, guys, because that was pretty dry. That was generally pretty dry. Hopefully this next section, when we go into this demo, will make this stuff a lot clearer. And generally all the demo reviews that I do in future, and there are going to be quite a few on this channel, are going to be talking about these concepts. So let's go. Let's get into it. Okay, here we have a demo. 8ballers versus Sylyx. These are both competitive teams, both generally quite decent. And I've picked these 2 teams because they're not tier 1 teams. They're not pros. They're going to be making some mistakes here and there. But I know that both of the IGLs from these teams are generally quite well versed in the economy. These guys are generally quite good at this stuff. So hopefully we'll see a lot of the theory that we're talking about here, while also seeing a few mistakes and different, more difficult decisions that we can pick up on while we're doing this. Now, I'm generally focusing mainly on the economy part of this demo. So I'm not going to really talk about what's going on in the game. I'm just going to talk about the specific economy things that are occurring here and the different scenarios that we see. All right, let's move on. Well, let's begin. So the first thing that we always do is always buy in the pistol round, right? This is not negotiable. Spend all your money in the pistol round. That is simply what is done. Never break this rule. Okay, so we'll skip forward. We see 8ballers win the pistol round, and then Sylyx now have to make a decision. Now, this is your first decision of the game in every game. Do I force or do I eco? Right, and you need to make that decision based on how quickly do you want to get AWPs out? What do you think your chances are of winning this force by? What map is it, for example? And what your personal preferences are. How good are you on force buys? Personally, I would always force this on Dust 2 for Sylyx because I want to get the AWPs out as soon as possible. So my AWP would save and we'd force and try to win the round. But if we don't, we want those AWPs on CTs pretty fast. Let's see what they do. Looks like they're going to force buy. They bought Deagles, they bought Scouts, and you look at Cookie's economy here. Cookie, I know, is the AWPer for this Sylyx team. He's actually just full saved. I wouldn't recommend this. I wouldn't recommend the full save. On a force buy, you want every one of your players to have some kill potential. The difference in kill potential between a USP and a Deagle is absolutely massive, right? So just that 650, 700 that you spend on the Deagle can change the game. Like imagine if he goes out and gets a 2K with that Deagle, it will pay itself off in spades instantly. So it is almost always worth it. Yep. We'll zoom through, see what happens, and they lose the force buy. But as you see here, Cookie now has a lot of money and can purchase back when he's ready. Now, the problem that Sylyx have had here is they haven't actually done much damage to the economy of 8-ballers. 8-ballers have 4 guys who are bought. 1 guy has died, Shui's died, but 4 guys who have bought, and they've still got plenty of money. So their economy is now starting to snowball. Yeah. In this eco, and this is the downfall of taking an eco for Sylyx, they've got to try and get some kills. Otherwise, the 8-ballers are going to go into a very strong position in the 3rd round. Right? So in this round, I would maybe even like to see Sylyx buy some P250s, like not full eco, just get some P250s out so they can try and get some damage done, because it's a really rough scenario if you let them snowball. So we go through what happens. It looks like we've got a full eco strat here coming out of Sylyx. I mean, yeah, they're just sort of stacking, but they haven't done what I've just said. They've bought 1 grenade, 1 flashbang, basically nothing, and they're just going to go and try and gamble something and do some damage. Now, we were speaking about, in the earlier section, what strategy you're going to use is dictated by the risk reward of the advantage in the round, right? 8-ballers in this round very clearly have the advantage. They have full utility. They have all the guns. Sylyx only have USPs. So what does Sylyx have to do? Right? They have to go out and take the biggest risk that they possibly can. Normally, you see the CT spread out across the bomb sites. Everyone's holding different spots. What Sylyx should do here is either rush somewhere or stack somewhere and just put 5 players there. So if 8-ballers make a mistake or guess incorrectly, they run into the full 5 stack of Sylyx, which might give Sylyx a very, very slight chance of winning the round. It's absolutely minuscule. It's tiny. So you take that risk, hoping you can expand that win percentage by getting lucky. Whether Sylyx do that or not, yeah, like looks like they've got a strategy here where they're all going to go to whichever side the presence is on. Like Cookie's taken long by himself somehow. These guys are all going to move. Okay, I believe yellow is AFK. I don't know. All right, let's move on. Now, in this round again, as you can see, only 1 player from 8-ballers has died. So the economy is starting to get really, really large on 8-ballers. They've got guns, they've got util, they've got money. You can't really expect too much more to come out from a full eco from Sylyx last round, but that is what it is. So we come into the first buy. What do? We full buy. This is very obvious. This is very simple, right? So we'll move through this very fast. They're just going to play a standard round and they win the round. Now, another standard scenario. What does Sylyx do? They won the round, so they full buy. What do 8-ballers do? Can they get a full buyout? Look at their money. There's 8K on 4 players. Yeah, they can full buy. So we should basically be seeing full buy versus full buy here. But Sylyx have a problem because of the situation that they're in, and they've only taken 2 guns into this round. They actually can't full buy. So even after winning this round, they're still not going to have a perfect buy, whereas 8-ballers are. And this is the scenario that occurs after 8-ballers win the first 3 rounds so convincingly. If they take so many guns through and there's no economic damage done, they're just able to continue to buy for as long as they want, or until they lose as many rounds as they want. And it feels bad if you're Sylyx to win the round and still have a worse buy than the other team, but that is unfortunately the scenario. Now, however, they win that round. They had a worse buy, but they've won, which finally breaks 8-ballers' economy. You look at 8-ballers' economy here, after losing 2 rounds, they have 1 person who can buy effectively, and that's Oni. So now they need to make a decision. And looking at this, you have to make the decision. Do we either force buy or do we eco? What would you do here? I'll give you a sec to think about it. And I'm going to show you this as well. 8-ballers have 2 loss bonus, so they'll earn 2,400 next round. What do you do in this scenario? You thought about it? Good. In this scenario, personally, I would eco. right? Because next round you can get a pretty decent buyout, and this round you can get some minor guns out and just try to do some damage to the CTs. There is an argument to be made here, and some teams definitely would force buy on 8-ballers to try to break the economy of Sylyx, because as we're about to see, let's just fast forward a little bit. As you can see here, the Sylyx economy is very, very low. Right? What's the loss bonus on Sylyx? They've only got 1 loss bonus. So if they lose this round, their money is going to be broken. So that argument, if you're a good team that's very scrimmy and you're better mechanically than the other team, 8-ballers could definitely have forced here. However, they've chosen the eco route. As you can see, Oni's got the 1 gun out, which is going to be used to do economic damage. And I'm sure that they have a strategy that is very gambly in this way that allows this AK to do damage. Right? So we move on to the next round, which Sylyx obviously win, but Sylyx have had a problem here. Right? In that, they've only taken 2 guns through from the last round. So this game is very much in flux, right? Neither of these scenarios or neither of these players teams are ahead in this game. They're not snowballing. Whoever wins this round is basically going to be economically broken, right? But you have a look at the loss bonus. So Bogeyman is 12-4. But you have a look at the loss bonus. These guys, if they lose, this is not a dire scenario for them. They're going to be able to buy some guns next round and then continue to buy the round after, whereas Sylyx have no loss bonus. So if they lose this round, they're going to have to force up the next round, and then they're going to have to eco after that probably. This round is almost worth 3 rounds for Sylyx, whereas 8-ballers don't feel that same pressure because of the loss bonus. This is the relative value of money that I'm talking about in our theory session earlier, boys. It's like, to Sylyx, money is way more valuable right now because they can't get it easily. They're only getting 1,400 for a loss. Whereas for 8-ballers, every time they lose, if things go wrong for them, their safety net is just sitting there under them ready to pay out, right? This is an important thing. Now, this is going to be a full buy round for both teams, as you can see, and there's no money left on either side. Who wins the round? It looks like Sylyx wins the round, but now we have an interesting scenario because the only thing that Sylyx have brought over into this round, like this was not a convincing round for Sylyx, right? Yeah, they've strung a couple together, and yeah, like the momentum's with Sylyx. They've won 4 in a row, but that's actually not true, right? It is so important to note here that only the orbs come through. If they full buy and lose, they're in some trouble. So you look at the money on 8-ballers here, and they've almost sort of got to that 4K. They're slightly below that minimum buy level of about 4K. But if they win this round, then the reward is going to be massive for them. So I could definitely understand why 8-ballers would force here, because that risk reward is absolutely huge. Let's see what they do. All right, so it looks like they've chosen to take the safe route and eco. Like, you can see that they'll definitely be getting a good buyout next round. It's basically no problem for them. But the thing that you need to be looking for here, if you're 8-ballers, is a strat that can do as much economic damage as possible, right? As long as you keep the economy of Sylyx low, you're fine. See what happens? It's an absolute disaster. Somehow, Sylyx have lost against this force buy. Something has gone very, very wrong here, right? This is not what should be happening. If you're on a full buy and the other team's on, it wasn't a force buy, it was an eco, you shouldn't be losing. This is disastrous. And now this is what we're talking about. And this is a big part of why I picked this demo, because while Sylyx have won the past 4 rounds in a row, because 8-ballers did a lot of damage, continued to hunt their money, made sure they only took 1 or 2 through to the next round. Now, 1 round loss, and they're on awful money, right? So, what's the rule here? If you're Sylyx, do you buy or do you eco? The answer is you have to force here. You have to buy up, because next round you're only getting 1900 and you're not even going to make the minimum amount of money that you need to get through to the next round, also to buy in the next round, right? You cannot buy in the preceding round. So this round you must force up. And it feels really bad because these next few rounds are going to be absolutely garbage buys for Sylyx. Compared to the full buys of 8ballers, they're going to have to pull out a miracle or like a really big round, similar to what 8ballers just did with their eco, to recover this. And this is part of why the CT economy is so punishing. The CT economy is just constantly punishing. If you make these mistakes and you don't build that bank, one mistake can mess you up. So let's see what they do. They full buy, as you can see. Nobody saves for the AWP on Sylyx, I might add. Cheeseball only has $500. So we move to the next round. Who wins? It's 8ballers. What happened in terms of economy? 8ballers' economy is now snowballing out of control. A couple of wins would sort of put Sylyx back in the right place, but Sylyx have to eco right now. They want to buy next round. They can't force again. So 8ballers are very likely to start building up this economy in this bank, and now they're sort of in the driver's seat. The closer it gets to the end of the game, because after this round, it's going to be round 10 with only 5 left, they can sort of start just full buying every round, and then they can get loose, right? They can just full on punish and bully Sylyx in an economy way to keep them as low as possible at all time, because the risk for them is going to be much lower. That's assuming they don't lose a lot of players on this eco, which really shouldn't happen. Let's see what happens. How many do they lose? Well, they lost 2 players and somebody seems to have disconnected from the server. We don't know why that's happened. I didn't look at the game live, but that definitely hurts, right? Not bringing that third gun through definitely hurts. So we look at what's happening now. We've got the full buyout from 8ballers, but this is basically a force buy from Sylyx, right? Cookie has no armor. There's a bunch of util lost on these guys. There's no mollies. Like, this is not a good buy from Sylyx. However, they have the saving grace that they got a lot done. Only 2 guns were brought through by 8ballers in the last round, so they're kind of going okay here. Like, this round, though, will turn the tide for the entire game. Sylyx need a dominant victory with a lot of players staying alive. Okay, so something weird has just happened here, guys. This is a very peculiar scenario in which Sylyx have actually won the round, but brought no players through. The only survivor of that round was actually Jules Cheat. Now, what do you do in this scenario if you are Sylyx? In this round, if you buy and lose, or your buy is going to be significantly worse than the other teams, and if you lose, you're going to be on eco again. I want you to pause this video and tell me what you would do. Because it's a hard one. Think about it. All right, you done that? Good. This is one of the only niche scenarios in which I can see it being viable to eco after winning a round. Right? This is the only scenario in which we should see this happen. And I want you guys to understand this, because if you get this and if you got that right, then you probably understand the rest of the economy. You probably understand everything. You look at the loss bonus on Sylyx right now. It's 1900. Okay? If they lose this round, they have to eco the next round. And in this round, they can't get an AWP out. They can barely get M4s out. Like, this is an absolute disaster scenario for Sylyx, right? I would actually like it if they ecoed, did a bit of damage, got a sick buyout next round, and had a really good crack at winning some of these rounds. However, 99% of teams will force up here. Yeah? To have the discipline for your players to wait after winning a round, not many teams have it. So I'm sure we see Sylyx buy here. Yeah, we do. We do. And just to prove the point that I was making, you look at the 8ballers buy, you look at Sylyx's buy, they're in a pretty rough scenario. How's it going to turn out? I don't know, but a slow default here from 8ballers should just absolutely crush this MP9 buy. Let's see what happens. Sylyx have won the round. That is a pretty much a saving grace from Sylyx in this round. Like, honestly, they've taken 3 guns through. This is a complete crushing from Sylyx. I don't know what 8ballers did because that's not why we're reviewing the demo. We're just sort of looking at these buy decisions. But yeah, really, really, really rough for 8ballers to lose that round against 3 MP9s and no AWP. Especially, sorry, I should have mentioned this a few minutes ago, but on Dust 2 CT, because Dust 2 CT is generally the more difficult side, so you're going to find it so difficult to win a round like Sylyx just won. All right. Of course, if you win the round and they won it fairly convincingly, you buy. So Sylyx are going to buy, and 8ballers, Jules can drop over some guns to Shui and Donga, and they'll be able to get a full buy up here. So this is a full buy round for both teams. And at this point, this is basically going to determine which way this half and potentially which way this game goes, right? So let's have a look. Yep, they both full buy. Unlucky to yellow, he's been hit on the cross there. But you see they both full buy. And it's about an even round. Let's see who wins. 8ballers. And now we're in the scenario of, do we force? Just zoom in a little bit so we can see. Do we force or do we eco? So what do you do? There's 2 rounds left in the game. The score is 6-7. And I think this is a really, really good round to make a judgment on, because you'll encounter this specific scenario in your own games a bunch of times, right? You'll see this a lot. Do you make the decision here as Sylyx to force this round and then force the next round, or do you eco this one and get one good buyout in the next round, right? It's a hard decision to make. The loss bonus is quite bad. So you're only getting 1900 if you lose. Personally, I believe this is a force every day of the week, right? I would force this up because, number one, I've already got 6 rounds on CT, that's 2. Okay? That's a decent amount. If I can get to 8, that you've won the half and potentially won the game, because you've possibly won the losing side, right? But the fact that I've already got 6 doesn't make me panicky, right? It doesn't make me feel desperate for rounds. I'm comfortable with 6 rounds. So I'm happy to have 2 chances at winning this round rather than 1. Now, if I win this preceding round, you look at 8ballers money. Let's just zoom through this a little bit and see 8ballers money once they've bought. Looking at 8ballers money, if they lose this round, then they're on eco pretty much, or they're on a force buy for the last round. So this round could potentially make it easier to win the next one as well. Whereas our buy wasn't going to be a full buy if we won it, us being Sylyx in this scenario. Like, if we ecoed this round and we got our $1,900 for losing, our buy still wasn't going to be that good. We still weren't going to get a full buyout. So I'd rather 2 force buys, which could have great results, than 1 eco and then 1 round, which is still not, like, we're still going to have a worse buy than them in that final round. That was a really interesting round and a really strong decision, I think, from the Sylyx IGL to force buy this round. Does it work out for them? It doesn't. They lose. And then you can see they have to force buy with 2K left. Not great. 8ballers still have a full buy. There we go. 9-6 to 8ballers. So we move on. You see the pistol round, always full buy on the pistol rounds. 8ballers win the first round. Now, the second round is actually a little bit different for Ts and CTs, right? 8ballers won the first pistol. Sylyx forced up on the second round. But what the difference here is, Sylyx has lost the pistol this time, but now they've got the bomb plan as well. So you get $800 extra as tees if you get the bomb plant. And now looking at their money, they can get a buy that's about as good as the CT's buy because they got that bomb plant. So most times you will see this force buy coming out because it fits into the rules that we spoke about earlier, right? Can we keep the other team's money low? Yeah. What's the risk reward for buying this round and winning it? Well, the risk is that we lose and we have to eco next round, but the reward is we can win the most important round in Counter-Strike. If we win this round, we put 8 ballers onto a full eco. We break their economy straight into the game. We take control of the half. Do we force? Most teams, 9 times out of 10, yes, will force. Let's see what Sylyx do. They have ecoed. Okay. Now, they've actually full ecoed here. In a similar round to this, most times you'll see them getting out a bunch of deagles to do damage. I think this is way too passive of an economy decision. Like, what you want to be doing, as we've spoken about over and over again, is if you're losing, you want to be doing damage to the other team's bank, right? So you can get them further and further away from that snowball situation in which they can buy over and over again and closer to breaking their economy, right? In this scenario, when you've only got 3 Glocks, 2 P250s and no utility, when you could have had deagles and still got a good buyout anyway, I think this is an economic mistake from Sylyx. Let's see what the result is. As we see here, 8 ballers have taken all 5 guns into the next round, because how were they going to get anything with not even any utility, right? It was super difficult to get that done. So now 8 ballers both can play what's called a bonus round here, where they just keep these guns. They can buy next round and they're fine, especially when they're up 11-6 as well. Like, 8 ballers are very clearly in control of this game at this point, even if they're on the CT side of Dust 2. So we'll see a, hold on, we'll pause it there. We've seen a full buy coming out from Sylyx. Basically full utility. Cookie's opted for the AWP, so he sacrifices a bit of utility for the early AWP, but that's fine. That should dominate this 8 ballers team. Now Sylyx are very clearly ahead in this round, right? They just need to play a standard round here as they have the advantage. So what happens? That is not the result that you would expect, right? Something has been going very, very wrong in this Sylyx camp. Right, they've got the T side of Dust 2 and they've got the good guns. What have they done? What risk have they taken, or how have they messed up in order to lose this round? Who knows? However, we can see that they got the bomb plant. Because they have so much money here still after losing this round, they have the loss bonus on their side and they've got the bomb plant, so they can force back up. And this is, or they can full buy here effectively. Cookies are going to be a little bit struggling, but the rest of them can get a pretty decent buyout, right? This is something that you need to be aware of all the time, is that if the T's have full loss bonus and they get a bomb plant, they will almost definitely be buying. That's simply the way it is. Bomb plant plus full loss bonus equals buy. Be ready for that. As you play more and as you understand more and watch these games back and learn about these economic decisions, you'll see that pretty much happens 100% of the time. Now, Sylyx should force here, and 8 ballers will have a full buy. That's exactly what we're seeing. Pretty important round for Sylyx. They lose it. However, this time they don't get the bomb plant. Right now they only have 3,400. They don't have the 4K buys, etc. So they're in a bit of trouble. Here, for Sylyx, do you eco or do you force up? The obvious answer is eco, because there is no reason to force. It doesn't get anything done for you. You're basically throwing away your chances in the game if you force here. So as you can see, they've ecoed and now they're going to run an eco strat. Right, next round. Hold on, let's just go back a little bit. Next round. I've gone too fast again. Full buy from Sylyx, full buy from 8 ballers. Everybody will buy up. Standard round here. We'll move on. 14-7. So Sylyx have won that round and they've taken most of their guns through. You look at the bank on Sylyx now and they're doing pretty well. But you look at the bank on 8 ballers. Let's just zoom it through. They've gotten a full buy, but they basically have no money left. So this round, and this is the punishing CT economy left, they have no loss bonus, they can't buy next round. This round is worth a few for Sylyx, right? This could really change the game. If this had occurred earlier or at a different scoreline, I'm sure 8ballers would be feeling much more pressure than they are now, but this is a very important round either way. Which way does it go? It goes in the way of Sylyx. The only gun that gets taken through is Jules Cheat's AWP. And now you can see that 8ballers have to eco. That previous round was worth 2 because of that bank account. Obviously, Sylyx force up, so let's see what happens. Here comes the eco. And this is a round, and it's important to look in these rounds because a round like this, right, you need to have a strategy that means that Jules Cheat can get something done. He needs to go out and make this round happen for his team, right? But we won't get too much into that. We're seriously just focusing on the economic decisions here. Let's see how this works out for Sylyx. They win and they take 2 guns through. This doesn't matter to them so much at this point because they can basically full buy for the rest of the game. If they lose a round or if they lose 2 rounds, the game's over. So they just keep full buying here. Now, the question I want to ask is how has Jules Cheat gotten this AWP through? Okay, we're going to go back and we're going to watch this round because do you remember our hunt or save decisions? We'll have a look here. This is the round that we just went through. So Jules Cheat, as again, has to go out and get something done. But the Sylyx should be winning this round regardless, right? Unless Jules Cheat absolutely dominates, gets full splashed, whatever. Unless Jules Cheat absolutely dominates, they should win this round. So the goal here for Sylyx, because they're down so far, needs to not just be to win this round, but to get this AWP out of the hands of Jules Cheat. So we'll quickly have a look at what Sylyx do. They take long control. And Jules, see how aggressive Jules is playing, even on 3% health. He retakes long. That's good. That's what you'd expect this guy to be doing. So Sylyx go B. And you have a look over here. Sylyx have taken full B control. This might be the problem. Yeah, because they've taken so much damage going into the B site, maybe they actually can't hunt Jules. We'll zoom it forward a little bit. They try to retake. You can't really get it done. Now, here's the exact scenario that we need to be making decisions because this is a really hard one, but this could really impact the game going forward, right? The decision on whether to hunt or whether to save every time needs to be made, right? These guys have very little health between them, but they know that Jules has that AWP. They don't know that he's low, right? So they need to make the decision. Do they hunt or do they save? Let's see how it plays out. Jules is already saving. He's making the correct decision here because this AWP could be massively impactful. These guys are effectively, they're just securing the round, which you probably have to do in a 2v1. But at this point, they've realized that he's saving. This was a hard one because they were so low, because it was a 2v1, it was really difficult to get anything done. But right now, I would expect these guys to basically be running at this guy, and he's saving pretty heavily. He's making the right choice to try and get the AWP out of his hands. It's one of those scenarios in which you just hunt so aggressively because this AWP can make a big difference. Right, we move on. So they save the AWP. We get the full buyout from 8ballers. Again, you look at the money on Sylyx. Like, if they lose, they're probably still full buying anyway. There's no big deal economy for them here. We see what happens. 14-9. Somehow, 8ballers have won. They bring 3 guns through, including 2 AWPs. Sylyx are now in a bit of a bad scenario. Of course, Sylyx are both teams are going to be full buying here, as they do. As you can see, we move on. Sylyx win again. 15-10. How's the money on 8ballers? Hold on, let's just go back a little bit here. At 15-10, 8ballers have obviously played it very safe here because they've lost that round, but they've brought 3 guns through, so they can just immediately buy back into this. They've got double AWPs. There's no reason. They can get a full buyout here. There's no reason for them not to, which is exactly what we see happening. Both teams pretty much have a full buy, a little bit low util on Shuey. We go into the next round, 15-11. This has been a really weird scenario because it seems here, let's just see what happens here. Sylyx have gone for the B rush or the B pop here or whatever this is. And there's only one player on the B bomb site, which is Shuey. You can see 4 players over here. on A. Yeah, it looks like Shui's gone down on the entry on the bomb site. Shui's died and they've just run in. So 8ballers have just made the very logical decision to immediately save here. There's no point retaking this bomb site. They've got 5 chances to win this game, so they can just walk away, save their guns, and try again next round. No harm, no foul. They take 4 guns through, and that's a great decision from 8ballers. There's no reason to risk all those guns, all this full buy, all that money when you don't have full loss bonus, when you don't need to. Like, there's no pressure on them at 15-10. That's a great economic decision from 8ballers. So again, we see the final round, and the final round goes the way of 8ballers. It was full buy versus full buy, and we're done. Now, that is the first of many demo reviews in this game. I didn't actually watch the gameplay there. I'm hoping that those economic decisions that we spoke about just help people grasp the economy a little bit more. Putting those concepts and theory ideas into practice is going to happen in every demo, throughout every game that you play throughout your entire Counter-Strike career. Getting this stuff down is super important. So all the demo reviews that I do in future are going to be going through this. They're going to be talking about these economic decisions that occur at the highest level. Right? All right. That'll do for now, guys. I know it's been a long video. I know it's been a dry video, but we had to get that out of the way before we could go into the other stuff. Right? This is the why. Why do we do things? Now we're going to go into a lot of the what. So all the tools that you use in different times to satisfy the economic conditions that we've just learnt about in this round. Who has the advantage, and what do you do when you have the advantage or don't have the advantage? When do you gamble? When do you play it safe? All this stuff we're going to go through, and we're going to learn about these decisions. Yeah, I'm glad to get this one out of the way, boys. If you made it to the end, congratulations. It takes patience. It takes commitment to get through a video like this. So well done, boys. Thanks for sticking around, and I will see you in the next video. Also, like, comment, and subscribe. Push me up in the algorithm. Thanks, boys.